In a world where digital content barrels towards us at relentless breakneck speeds, where posts and memes and tweets and snaps rain down a punishing assault of attention-grabbing data, three heroic podcasters with a strong background in broadcast media are taking on the internet. Each week, we break down the trends, technology, and connections that are transforming our lives. We are Things I Found Online. Bubble wrap yourself. Radio legends and comedians are exploring the internet and pack plenty of sardonic irony. Join us for a journey into the Facebook underground of Leftbook. When does Facebook become physically dangerous? Has the internet forgiven James Gunn for offensive 9-year-old tweets? And what, for the love of gender ambiguity, is they by? All that.
It's What's a Baby, Joe?
Oh, a baby.
What's a baby?
What's up, baby? All that plus the top one list. What's Twitter trending in Facebook feed time? I'm Joe Cipriano, and now, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Louise.
Thank you for throwing to me. That was just charming, Joe. We're in our new studio.
I should have asked you.
What?
The by.
Oh, they buy. No, they bees are trending. Hashtag they bees.
Gotcha.
So I'm here with Joe Cipriano, Ryan Tabb, Aaron Linker, Lori Roggenkamp. She will be here any moment. So just imagine she's already here, as is Larry Morgan reporting live from the Podcast Movement Convention in Philadelphia.
Hello, Larry.
Hey, everybody.
So where are you? You're in a corner under a stairwell? You're under someone's dress? Please describe your location.
With a bald microphone.
I believe what I am currently residing in is the networking loungy area of the Philadelphia Marriott downtown in Philadelphia. Let me see if I could kind of give you an overview of what's going on.
Let's see, yeah.
Overview.
Cool.
There's a lot of people. You will actually see people in beanbags, and there is a high-profile podcaster whose name I will not give out.
Wait a minute. Are you guys playing Twister there? What the heck is going on?
There's a lot of rearranging of limbs.
Yeah.
Poor thing. And I would plug her podcast if she were awake. But she is
we found a snoozing podcaster?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
she's
that kind of
somebody's
party.
about to wake her up? Nope, I guess not.
Oh, jeez.
So it's all
You're
going.
kidding.
It's kind of amazing, actually. It's 3 days of nonstop conferences, sessions, many of them going on simultaneously, and each one, there are different tracks focused on what you're interested in, whether you're a creator, you're starting from scratch, if you're involved in broadcast, if you're a techie person and you're looking to expand. I mean, they really cover the gamut, and there are a number of high-profile companies here now, and for the first time, actually, that I can tell, they have a real focus on broadcast. So there are some radio companies here, and there's a whole industry track as radio is kind of slowly getting the message that podcasting is a thing that they should be more involved in.
Interesting.
Larry, may we see your badge?
Oh, yeah. You want to see?
Yes, please.
Larry does carry a lot of baggage. Oh, I'm sorry, baggage.
Badge.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Wow, look at that.
Oh.
Let me take a picture of that. There you go.
This is the real deal, guys.
You're a
I'm
fish.
very impressed. I've just been here one day, and I've made copious notes, hearing all sorts of great ideas and concepts on how to expand the world. I mean, I'm going to come back and give you so much information.
He's going to be a pain in the neck when he comes back.
Yeah, I really am. I'm going to be kind of a big-time
And how will
podcast
that be
know-it-all.
different than? Okay, so Larry, I'm really looking forward to that. That's so exciting. If anyone famous or interesting stumbles past you in a state of semi-consciousness, please completely trip him and drag him over to your microphone.
Yeah. Oh, there's a whole group here that's making fun of me for podcasting. Hi there.
Oh, really?
Well, a little bit.
Say hi, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby.
No, you're
No, no, you're Bobby.
Hi.
Bobby.
Where are you from?
Philadelphia.
What are you doing here?
I am. Where am I? Oh, there I am. I'm actually here covering this for the Philadelphia Tribune, which is the nation's oldest and largest African-American newspaper.
Oh, fantastic.
So I am talking about not just the podcast movement, but a whole new media option for so many people
Wow.
who now have a chance to share their passion via podcasting.
That
Let me tell
is
you, Bobby's passionate, I can tell you.
Indeed. I've always been. But I've also been about new media options. And so I've been into podcasting since I had to have an iPod to actually listen to a podcast.
Right.
So this is really great to be here and to experience this energy and to meet so many people who are a part of this new media dynamic. So I'm honored to just share a little bit of me. And whenever you do, make sure you come to Philly because we are the best.
Oh, we'll be there.
I was on board until that last part.
Thank you,
No,
Bobby.
but she can throw down with the live shot spontaneously.
That was great. She was ready
As
for that.
cannot
That's
I.
the way I said ambiguity, too.
That was good.
Yes.
Good, Larry. Good job.
Thank you.
So, Larry, what comes next is we have what a new feature on the show called the Top One List. So it's the Top One List,
Yeah.
and it's the top one list of internet lists. So you know that the internet is all about the lists,
All about it.
right? And so here we go. This week's number one list
Drum roll.
is the 10 goofiest Facebook groups according to Reader's Digest. And we will be talking about Facebook groups later in the show. This is the 10 goofiest Facebook groups. Lads, Ryan, please look up at your screen. And
there you
number 10.
Number 10, I will carry 20 grocery bags so I don't have to make a second trip.
There is a Facebook group for that.
I would do that. I do that.
This is my point. Next, Aaron.
I don't understand what that could be. Okay. When I was your age, Pluto was a planet.
Yeah. I remember when Pluto was a planet and we used to call the other planet Uranus. Do you remember? No, it's Uranus, I think.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's still Uranus.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks for saying that.
Number 8, people who always have to spell their names for other people. I think I'm in that group.
Seems like it.
Number 7, I am fluent in 3 languages, English, sarcasm, and profanity.
I joined that group. Yeah, I joined
Damn
that
it.
group.
I will say with the name thing, I spell my name Lauri.
So you're in that group.
Lauri, yeah.
And I have so many
a
conversations
heart.
with people about how there's no E at the end of my name.
Oh, okay, sure.
And it like drives me crazy. It's like the one way, but you know what's weird? Lori, Lory, totally fine with it. Like I'm like, and that's not how you spell my name, but E for some reason I'm just like, get your shit together. Like figure yourself out. Stop spelling my name incorrectly.
Yeah,
There.
and how are you supposed to fix that? Did they
Yeah.
just expect you to add an E to your name to make them happy?
Well, the worst one I have is that autocorrect because autocorrect always adds a
Oh,
name.
yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. Get some energy. Delete the E.
Autocorrect is a bossy bitch, okay? Number 6. No, I don't care if I die at 12 a.m. I refuse to pass on your chain letter.
Yeah, I love that.
Number 5, Lori. These are Facebook groups.
Yes.
Number 5, friends don't let friends wear Crocs.
Friends do let friends
Really?
wear Crocs. Yeah.
Oh, are we? Is
You
it a
wanna
pro
wear
croc
Crocs?
movement?
Yeah, do you like
I'm
Crocs?
all about Crocs. I
Really?
don't wear them, but I'm all about people who
Oh,
want
okay.
to wear them.
The freedom of wearing
My brother
Crocs.
loves Crocs. There was a Croc sale. He bought a lot of Crocs. My roommate at school wears platform Crocs, which I didn't know
Platform
existed until I met
Crocs?
him, but
Wow.
he wears them every day, even in the snow. And honestly, he rocks them.
Okay,
He rocks those Crocs.
those Crocs.
I don't
feel-
believe it.
I feel like Crocs is kind of like religion where you have to get them young. You know, like you have to like indoctrinate them. Like your friends have Crocs. Like you are indoctrinated into Crocs. Like
Yeah.
you accept it.
That's fair.
It's like
Yeah.
religion. It's
You
like
couldn't push him on
It's
on
more
me
like
if I
a
was
political
older.
Yeah.
ideology. You're either
Yeah.
pro croc or anti croc.
yeah, like if I like because I just never really had that connection with Crocs.
Right.
I just think that they're the dumbest thing that's ever.
Yeah.
walked
What
the
I'm
face of the
against is the little things you put in the holes on the Crocs. The little like, oh, it's a penguin, or like all the little
Oh,
designs.
really?
you can
Oh,
put on
I've
a
not
flower.
seen
yeah.
that. Oh, that.
And those, because don't decorate your Crocs, just wear your Crocs. You know?
Yeah, that's.
This is the whitest conversation.
Number 4.
That's what I'm here for.
We're extremely white. Number 4. I don't care if the spider is not hurting anyone. I want it dead.
Oh yeah.
Number 3. Who wants to read number 3?
I secretly want to punch slow-walking people in the back of the head.
Not a secret anymore. You're in a group
man,
on
I'm
Facebook.
so there.
It really
Number
isn't.
2, an arbitrary number of people demanding that some sort of action be taken.
I'm
I should
so
be
in that group. I'm so in that group.
And the number 1 top 1 list.
Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
It's pretty suspenseful. Students against backpacks with wheels.
Yes.
Oh, man.
It's a suitcase.
We have a chapter of that at my high school.
Do you?
No.
See,
No.
this is like
I
lied.
You're also
Crocs.
in college.
This
It is like
it-
Crocs.
because I
Is
went
it
to a high
technically
school
a
that
backpack,
was
though. If it's
What's that, Larry?
Larry?
is it technically a backpack if you actually never put it on your back?
Well, it usually has straps so you can put it on
You
your back,
can
and you
put it
can
on
No
your back.
one ever
yeah, but if you got
does.
wheels
That's a
on
good
that thing,
point.
you're never gonna.
Well, I
actually
agree.
use
It's a
wheel it.
suitcase if you ask me.
I
That's a
went
suitcase.
to a
Yeah.
high school that was a college preparatory school, and we had these textbooks that were like the weight of some of the students' body mass. Like they were like literally the size of these students. And so you have these tiny Asian kids walking around with these giant textbooks. I mean, they're not going to be able to carry them.
Yeah.
My brother
Gotta hit the gym.
My brother fell down the stairs trying to carry his backpack, so
Oh,
he got a
God.
wheelie backpack. Like that's
Yeah, I don't
literally
blame
what
people
happened.
for taking those on. Backpacks can be oppressive sometimes.
Well,
I-
couldn't you like harm your posture by
Yeah.
11th grade?
That's one of the
absolutely,
things is they hurt
absolutely.
your spine.
Yeah.
But is everything getting tabletized?
Oh, so no more textbooks.
Not
Yeah.
in certain
I hate that.
depending on the wealth of the neighborhood. I mean, they could still be.
My wife is going for a master's, and it's online master's, and still has to get.
The textbooks.
Yeah.
For us, like at
textbooks, yeah.
school, we have the option for some classes where the book's available online if it's a more prominent book and it's not just the professor pushing their own book, and that's why there's a class for
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
it. But I always go with those options because you save $300, but I
Yeah.
hate them because I hate reading on my computer. I hate reading,
Yeah.
but I hate reading on my computer even more.
I don't like reading. I
yeah.
have to rent textbooks.
Yeah.
Because, like
Yeah.
you said, they're cheaper.
Yeah.
So they're cheaper and you rent them, but then sometimes you get them on Kindle, and it's like you can't even look at them on your computer. I have to like read textbooks off my phone. 'cause
Yeah,
they're
it's a
not-
pain.
That's
I
So it's
love
just like a pain in the
highlighting.
butt.
I like highlight the whole page.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can annotate.
Oh yeah, you can annotate,
sure.
but there's something about
just
holding that
doesn't feel the
highlighter
same.
No.
and like the physical action of highlighting helps me burn the words into my brain.
I
Oh,
like
very
books
good.
because I like being able to hold it and see how far you've gone.
Mm.
You know, that's the reason I like
That's
a book.
I
awesome.
like
That's
books because
very
you
good.
can throw them at people wearing Crocs.
Or rolly backpacks.
It's a
Tip 'em
useful
over.
tip them right over. All right, so we're going to dive into a topic that was in the news this week. I hope you're prepared, Larry, and in a seated position next to someone else who wants to do a one shot real quick. When is news so fake it must be banned? So this was Mark Zuckerberg. It seems like this guy talks and then people go, did he just say that?
Yeah, really.
So,
Zuck.
Over and
so
over and
the
over
Zuck,
again. Yeah.
the Zuck was talking, and that can never lead anywhere helpful. But it led to this statement led to immediate internet backlash. He said he will take down posts that could lead to physical harm of others. In other words, so incendiary that like, go kill those guys. You know, he'll take that down. But he's saying that he does not take down Holocaust denier posts because they are not intentionally getting it wrong. How do you measure intention?
I agree with his decision to handle it the way he's handling it, although I disagree with his premise that it should be based off of intention, and because you can't measure intention. That's one of the hardest things, maybe the most impossible thing to try and measure. The only person who truly knows intention, and sometimes not even that person, is the person committing whatever act it may be.
Right.
So I understand giving people the freedom to speak what they want on your platform, and then I appreciate drawing the line when it becomes blatant hate speech. But I don't think it should be based off of intention because you can't determine that in any way. You just can't.
There's a lot of really false stuff on Facebook, and you can start with climate deniers or flat earth people or whatever. It's not true. It doesn't match the facts, but it's on there. And so I think what Zuckerberg was saying, like, well, Holocaust deniers falls into that category, and it doesn't rise to the level of like, you know, let's go hunt babies and harm them.
And he's saying that if something is spreading and it's false by fact checkers, it's just going to lose its.
He's saying,
veracity
he's saying
and
if
just go
something
away.
is something is proven to be false, then it won't come up in search results. It won't
right.
show up in people's feeds. But we know from the last election that a lot of really incendiary stuff was very popular because people wished it to be true. Lori?
Yeah, I mean, you have the vaccination, anti-vaccinators. I mean, that's basically an internet groundswell. You have people who believe the Holocaust isn't real. You have the Nazi Party is now getting popular, and that's the internet groundswell. You have incels. You have all these things. So, I mean, I don't necessarily feel like they should all be banned, but I think that they should be monitored.
And it's not even just that people wish it to be true. It's a lot that people fear it's true. And so a lot of this stuff is fear-based, the spreading of it.
I also think that you can't. It's a Twitter. I don't know about, maybe Facebook is a public company, or I don't know necessarily. But if it's a privately owned company, you have the right to choose what's on your.
But
page.
I will say they have the right, but not the obligation. So that's the difference, right? Is like I think that those people should have the right to have not their voices heard, but the right to say whatever they want to say. Because in my mind. And Facebook is a bad example just for this discussion only because, as you said, they're a publicly traded company. But let's go with the idea that when they were originally a private company, the premise was kind of share your thoughts. And if you want to have a website that's dedicated to sharing your thoughts, sharing your photos, sharing your feelings, once you get into the censorship business, that website loses its entire purpose. So
that's a good point.
I don't think that they want to get into the censorship business
But Facebook
beyond when
is-
it becomes hate speech.
but I mean,
when it becomes hate speech.
From what Zuckerberg
exempt.
said, yeah, he's already in the censorship business. He's willing to censor those. those
But
people who
there's
post
but I
hate
mean
speech.
but like hate speech the same way that we have a Second Amendment right to freedom of speech, not Second Amendment. That's the same way we have our right to freedom of speech in this country. Like you still can't. Like hate speech is still a crime. Like you can't threaten people and make those kinds of.
Well, any speech is a crime. I mean, I could say fire and I could be arrested. I mean, I think the issue with free speech is always that you can say whatever you want without consequence. That's not true. There are consequences.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I think that Zuckerberg is essentially walking that same line, saying when you start causing harm to people, like yelling fire in a crowded area or threatening people, saying let's go hunt babies, like Louise said. That's where it's not even protected by your freedom of speech.
Wait a minute, Louise said we
is
should
back
hunt
on the-
babies.
Well,
Hunt
I
babies train.
have hunted babies, and it's just for sport.
Babies are
Of course.
surprisingly
You know what?
spry.
They're easy to hunt.
Yeah.
They're just waiting.
they're
They're sitting
elusive.
ducks. But,
Louise, you're already trending.
I'm just saying he's
that's
essentially
awesome.
towing the same line that the law already tows. I don't think he needs to or wants to or should get in the business of going further than that and trying to censor what's right and what's wrong and what's the intention.
I think the way he phrased it, I agree with you. I think the way he phrased it was just the dumbest
Oh, yeah.
way possible to
No,
phrase it.
I would not disagree with that for a
like,
second.
it just, to me, it frustrates me because you would think that it would pass through like so many PR people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even here we have somebody taking photos and doing social media. It's like there's like a connection to that. So it's like, you know, like you would think that Mark Zuckerberg has like at least a couple of people.
But then
to go
again,
like, hey.
there is the president
Oh, God.
Fair.
who is
That's
just
true.
going rogue on just
See,
about.
that's the problem
Yeah.
in this day and age is that you can make a smart point or a cognizant point and people be like, but then again,
Yeah.
Trump. And
Yeah,
you're like,
right,
all right,
exactly.
well,
Damn
okay.
it.
The other
Yeah.
thing is that we have that capacity to have an immediate statement disseminated through. I mean, like it's just right in front of you. Like I want to say this, boom, and it used to be like someone typed it up and it went through this, and you know before, and then you had to call the New York Times and you had to say Mr. Zuckerberg would like to make a statement. It had gone through many people. Now it's like Zuckerberg, who literally invented the platform, is just like. This is totally what I want to say. Boom. And you know, he thinks, I mean, he is really smart.
Yeah.
And a lot of what he says makes sense on a certain level of just pure Spock logic.
He just phrased
but
it poorly.
he's not always like in touch with how people feel.
Well, he's rather
Yeah.
new to speaking just off the cuff, isn't he?
No,
I mean,
he's-
you would hardly ever see
so
him
his
in the past 5
his-
years. Finally, he's come out.
his statement following the internet backlash, he issued a statement where he said, in defending the earlier statement, Zuckerberg said, "There's one thing I want to clear up. I personally find Holocaust denial deeply offensive, and I absolutely didn't intend to defend the intent of people who deny that. If something is spreading and is rated false by fact checkers, it would lose the vast majority of its distribution."
Right.
He added that any post advocating for violence or hate against a particular group would be removed. So I guess you can click on the posts
Is that
and
not
flag them.
enough advocating hate against a specific group? Holocaust denial? I feel like that's like
I mean,
right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to toe a very fine line here because I do not want to sound in any way like I'm defending Holocaust deniers. But I would venture to guess that there are some people who just like I don't think that maybe they don't hate people. Maybe they just don't
Yeah,
think it
but
happened.
those are
Like
the
they-
dumb ones.
but
That's
those-
not most
no.
of
But that's
them.
what I'm saying. Like that's why I think you can't get into that business of trying to monitor
I agree.
millions of people between who's stupid and who's ill-intended as far as hating hating people and being a hate group versus being scared and ignorant like Louise had put out there. And when I think that he's doing a fine job essentially enforcing his rules the same way the First Amendment enforces them legally. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So when I first heard about Holocaust denial, I was like, well, why would you guys be denying the Holocaust? You hate Jews. Wouldn't you be like, yay, you guys killed a whole bunch of them. That's awesome. But someone's pointed out to me like, well, the Holocaust is the reason for Israel to be a state. Like
People
of
think it's an
all the
extortion
different
racket
countries in
somehow.
the world, which are Islamic states or Catholic states or whatever, there's one Jewish state, and they won't give us that. It's like, come on. So, like the whole UN is full of all kinds of different Iranian states and Catholic states and Protestant states and whatever, and there's just Israel. That's it. And they won't leave us alone. And I get that Israel isn't always behaving well.
America isn't behaving.
Yeah, it's complicated in
So,
Israel.
yeah.
Things are complicated in Israel. But to deny that there shouldn't be a Jewish state because the Holocaust never happened, that's kind of what they're after.
Well, yeah, I think that the people who are ill-intended entirely come from that perspective. There's a show on Viceland, which I find incredibly insightful yet funny, because it's called Hate Thy Neighbor, and it's done by Jamali Maddox, who is a South African comedian.
Yeah.
And he has this really interesting angle where he has managed to come at issues around the world as a comedian, but from like a documentarian perspective. So he starts to get these inside looks. The concept of the show originated where he would go and find some of the most extreme hate groups around the world and just sit down and talk with them. And he's half black, he's South African. And eventually there's only so many hate groups. So he moved on to some of the more interesting people in the world. But it's this balance, this documentarian and comedian side. He does go and look at some people who are Holocaust deniers. And when he's talking to them, there's a slip up, which Louise, your comment on saying why people who are Holocaust deniers, you would think they'd be, they wouldn't want to deny that. It's what they're talking about. The wife of this man slips up and essentially says, oh yeah, I think we need another Holocaust. And the husband goes, you mean a first Holocaust?
Oh, man.
And he aired the whole thing. And I just think it's hysterical that she slipped up. And those are the kinds of people where they have that slip and it's intense.
It's a Perry Mason moment.
It is.
Yeah.
Where you throw the guy who's like, his arms are disabled, you throw a ball at him and he catches it.
Or you,
Gotcha.
or you drop
Gotcha.
a mic stand and Stevie Wonder catches it.
But
Just
you know
putting
what
that
I
out
love?
there.
Stevie Wonder.
I love what you
that's
said.
another
You
whole
said that he actually ran out of hate groups. So that's a positive.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, and now he's on to like people who
Yeah.
don't believe in the federal government, and
Right.
it's really fascinating.
Right.
Honestly, check it out. Hate Thy Neighbor on Viceland.
I also
All
think
right.
another reason why is that Adolf. A lot of people want to make it seem like Adolf Hitler wasn't the person that everybody's claiming he is. He was like this. He was just like this guy who was just anti-government and
Anti-Jew.
And they want. Oh, that's my slip up. They wanted to put this like Holocaust on him because they wanted to discredit everything that he stood for. And so that a lot of people would, like a lot of Nazis, when they do interviews and stuff, they say, well, we're not anti-Jew. Jewish people hate us, and they're doing all this stuff to
Wow.
us.
Oh,
So-
broken logic.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it's like when people say like when somebody calls something racist and you're like, well, you're racist for thinking that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
You're a reverse racist, which is
Yeah.
just as racist as being a racist. We're going to throw to Larry really quick because he has a podcast convention to get back to. Larry, any interesting developments in your corner of the world?
No, the young woman who is a host is still sound asleep over here in one of the big bean bags.
Is she famous, Larry?
She actually produces and writes a fictional legal podcast,
Ooh.
which is kind of interesting. And I almost hate to promote it because I don't want people to know that she
Is
passed
asleep.
out in the
No, but
middle.
you could say she's working so hard,
Yeah.
at burning,
Either that or
burning her candle, or she's been murdered.
Get the name of that
Oh, God.
beanbag chair. That
Larry,
must be
has
the
she
most
been
comfortable
murdered?
beanbag chair in the
check her
world.
pulse.
Check her pulse.
It is a true crime. It is a
Yeah.
true crime podcast, and it would be
Yeah.
a real
So sensational.
twist if the. Oh my god!
I have a true crime podcast, and I think honestly, my greatest like hope is that either I eventually become a guest on the podcast as somebody who killed somebody, or I get murdered by somebody and become
you're a
so one or
subject
the
of
other.
one.
Yeah.
Please don't choose the first one. For all of our sakes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're pretty
don't
safe.
kill anybody, please.
So, Larry, we're going to let you run off and gather more tips, hints, and cheats at podcasting. And when you return, we're going to be very eager to hear all about it.
Awesome. Well, I'm very happy to be part of this podcast while at a podcast convention, which
It's deep.
Kind of makes perfect sense.
Yes,
I'm
it
surprised
does.
I haven't seen more people doing it.
Have you met any of your idols?
No.
No.
Do you have
No.
idols?
Well, who are your idols?
Yeah.
Are they all dead? Because that would make it awkward.
Yeah, all the people I really admire and look up to in the podcasting world are all died in true crime podcasts.
Oh no.
Well, Larry, I want you to look for the Gimlet team because I'm like a huge Gimlet geek, and
cool.
and look for Malcolm Gladwell because I like
Oh,
obsess
Oh, wow.
over
His
him.
podcast is really good.
Yeah, and who else? Who do we like?
Dan Carlin, I like.
Yeah,
I doubt
Dan.
Jesus and Miro are there, but they do have a podcast, Bodega
Okay.
Boys.
All right,
It's
all right.
good
Rob
podcast.
Paulson, the voice actor.
Oh, I love Rob. Yeah.
Yes.
He's so good.
Oh, yeah.
He's awesome.
I actually, I view this now as a podcast, the first podcast on the radio. But April Winchell, she was the reason why I started doing comedy. She had a radio show on 640
KFI?
AM, yeah, KFI,
Yeah.
and it was like basically like the first iteration of a podcast because it was she just talked about whatever the hell she wanted to.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Is she there, Larry?
yeah,
Everybody you mentioned is here.
and they're all dead.
I'm so excited for you. Have a
And maybe
blast.
they want to meet me. I mean, maybe Malcolm Gladwell's going. I wonder if
God,
that
I wonder if Larry Morgan
Really?
is there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
found
So,
online.
yeah.
Bring us some swag, okay?
Ooh, swag.
I got some goodie bag.
All right. Okay, we love you, Larry, and travel safely. And
He
we'll
got
see
those
you.
glasses out of that goodie bag. Do you know that?
Yeah, they make him
I'm
look
being
handsome.
ridiculed by my fellow podcasters here.
Oh, did the one
You
woman
were
wake up?
typing, He was typing Malcolm Gladwell as I talked about it. That's really
Wow.
Does he
Oh,
know
that's
Malcolm
funny.
Gladwell? So, like, how many connections of Malcolm Gladwell till I get to Malcolm
strange.
Gladwell?
7
Started an
degrees.
ESP podcast or
That was
something.
actually Kevin Bacon. Who's
Oh, was that Malcolm?
Whoa.
Malcolm? I'm not going to yell Malcolm at everyone because I don't know what he looks like.
Just-
Malcolm?
Malcolm? Oh, there he is.
Turn your
Let's
phone
see who it
around,
was.
and then we'll just walk through the hall. This will be good podcast.
I can
Just
see his
yelling
widow's
Malcolm.
peak.
Yeah, Malcolm.
All right, Larry, we love you.
All right, love you. I'll see you guys in where are you again?
We're
We're in
here in
Los
Los
Angeles.
Angeles.
Los
That's
Angeles.
right.
In
I forget
California.
where I am.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye, Malcolm.
All
I was
right.
in,
Bye. Have a good day.
All right, so Weird Facebook. Has anyone heard
Yeah.
of Weird Facebook? Because Dina turned me on to this, and it's a rabbit hole.
The Facebook group or like the groups in
well,
general?
it's a genre.
Mm-hmm.
And what is Weird Facebook? Ironic Facebook posts and groups are a hidden network of meme communities and affinity groups that may just be the future of the social network as we know it. Leftbook rose out of Weird Facebook, but there is a lot of overlap. Dina, what differentiates Leftbook from Weird Facebook?
Okay, so there's a lot of overlap between Weird Facebook and Leftbook. You could say they're almost identical. Can you pull up, Thomas, that image that I sent you?
Is
that I
Leftbook
emailed
on
you?
Facebook or is it its own
So
thing?
Leftbook is the name that's given to like the groups, Facebook groups.
They're
that
very ironic
take
and
on-
sassy.
Mm-hmm.
That take on the social justice kind of issues.
Oh.
Or have that as like an important part of like the membership to be in the group. So okay, so this is what I wanted to explain to you guys. So
Okay.
I'm in this group called Oh No Baby, What Is You Doing? And it's based on this meme.
Okay.
Right? So the meme came out. And it was like from a video, I think, where two guys were like doing like some kind of prank, like the same prank over and over again. And then this one guy said like to his buddy, like, "Oh no, what is you doing?" And then people started making these memes that referred to, if something like
What the hell is happening?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like if you read some of these,
Okay, go ahead and read
get
them.
it pretty.
Go ahead and read them.
So like me buys something, my bank account, right, and like the
Oh,
face
no.
of the guy,
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
And so this is without like the what is you doing part is implied by his face.
Yeah.
But there used to be like, or the memes would sometimes have that like on the picture of him.
I like the bottom right.
Read that one, Joe.
Bottom right. I don't have a mic. Go ahead.
Oh.
Me shows mom a picture of my phone. Mom starts swiping left to right. Me. Okay, so I joined this group not necessarily knowing what to expect, but I like the memes. I'll be honest. Okay, I didn't have like a political agenda. I just like the memes. So when I did probably have to answer some questions when I joined, but now pretty much all the content that is posted in that group has a very left-leaning agenda. Like this morning, somebody posted a video about a woman who, like, some psychiatrist who's very like transphobic and is like denying the existence of like transgender people and saying like, you know, what we're doing with kids.
What's her stance on the Holocaust? Do you know?
How can
What
you have a
about
stance on
Crocs?
something that didn't
Pro or
happen?
anti?
Where is she on Crocs?
The people need to know.
So according to this
Choose
article
wisely.
by Alex Kleinman, almost all of the groups, this is her saying, or I think Alex is a guy, maybe it's a girl. Almost all of the groups I've joined, maybe it's a they, almost all of the groups I've joined make you answer politically charged questions before you're admitted. Even if the group doesn't seem political on its surface, it's likely part of Left Book. In order to join a group called That's Not Jim, That's Butch the Bigot, you will need to answer these questions. How many genders are there? Does reverse racism exist? Can a moral equivalency be drawn between Antifa and the KKK? The group's administrators grade your paper and determine your admission status. So shorthanding this, you need to get it. That's like how I would say. So here's how it looks to me. Jim is your dad, who's new to the internet. Butch is your Alex Jones quoting uncle. Bob is the creepy dude you graduated from high school with. In Left Bank, all of these people will be openly mocked and skewered. Members share and deride posts from Jim's, Butch's, and Bob's. And there's probably more to it. This is just what I gleaned from reading this article. Dina is in a nail shaming group, and I don't know how that's political, but you can explain.
It's not. Yeah. So not every Facebook. So right now we're making a distinction between just like Facebook groups and like Left Book. And the Left Book, the whole Left Book thing started from, you know, I think that most people who are in Left Book, as this implies, are young, right? And you young people can maybe support or deny what I'm saying, but it seems like there's a connection, right, between like meme and internet culture and then also being like an SJW or like left in your politics.
Yeah, but I'm
Not automatically.
surprised.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah,
Go
as a young person as well, I agree with what we're saying.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm surprised that, this is not really much of an answer to that particular question, but I'm just surprised that people are young in these groups.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't they just be on Reddit? Like, this is just worse Reddit.
It's like
No,
the
it's
thing that's
not.
bringing people back to
disagree.
Facebook.
Exactly. Yeah.
This just sounds like worse Reddit,
It's
honestly.
But then-
but
but
it is
see-
a way to Redditify Facebook.
Yeah,
But then
exactly.
just go to Reddit.
Yeah,
No,
right?
it's so
Just
much
go
easier.
to Reddit. I mean,
here's
that's
the
where
thing.
You don't
young
have to
people
apply.
Here's
are.
the thing about Left Book is like if you're everybody on Facebook, pretty much, unless they're a Russian bot or whatever,
That's me.
is a real person, right? With like a real identity. And that's why you
I
can
guess that's
enforce
fair.
these kind of rules.
So that's
right?
kind of nice,
So,
right? You
like,
can see people. If someone says something, you can click on them and see
Yeah.
what they're about. I guess I respect that part of it. Reddit, on the other hand, has the community voting process where just things get hidden when when people hate them enough, so it filters it out that way. But that's just my opinion.
right.
What
yeah.
I don't understand what your opinion is.
Well, just why would you be on Weird Book?
Left Book or Weird Facebook?
Weird Facebook. Why? Well, you could just
I
use
think-
Reddit. If you want to, like, there's a subreddit for every individual meme. There's a subreddit for every concept, every thought, every thing. So why would you have to apply to join a group when you could just type it in and enjoy it without
it's-
applying?
Maybe it's people who have
it-
never been. Oh, Joe has the answer.
No,
I was going to
just
say
saying,
maybe it's people that have never been to Reddit, but they're already on Facebook.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I'm
So they have
surprised
to-
it's young
they
people.
don't have to learn a
For
new
one,
platform.
That's why I was saying I'm surprised it's
For
young
one,
people.
it's a matter of convenience. Two, a lot of people don't like Reddit because it's kind of male dominated.
That's fair. If that's your reasoning, sure, I'll give you that.
Oh, this could be like a sassy
I
place.
just thought it was Facebook trying to get people that are into Reddit to come over to their platform, but, it's not
but
necessarily
it's not,
Facebook.
It's not the Facebook industry. It's just
You know what?
people on Facebook.
If that's your reason, though, if like, you have a vendetta with, or not a vendetta, but an issue with Reddit for a reason like that, like, of course, then I understand that. But if you're just like, I want memes,
I think what's
don't know why you
interesting,
would choose
Ryan,
this
is
course.
that like a long time ago, I was on a plane. I read in Wired magazine. I read an article about Will Wright, and I guess he created SimCity and stuff like that. So like his basic premise was like you build the sandbox and then you let it out there and people will create what they will create. Like you just have to see. And so I think that even the Zuck
exactly.
is like, wow, I did not know that people would do this with my platform, but cool.
Right. The fact that they're using Facebook to kind of like make fun of Facebook, I think is part of like the enjoyment of it for them because they're...
Is it restricted exclusively to like Facebook related things? Is
No.
that maybe I'm
No,
missing
No,
not
that?
at all.
but
Nail
they're
shaming.
sort of they're sort of like in specifically like when we're talking about Left Book, a lot of the time they're it's like this ironic space where they're like what Louise read about like making fun of Jim and Butch and
Right.
Jimette or whatever.
Yeah, it's these
making
types.
fun of normies,
Normies,
quote
yeah.
unquote, because the content posted in like I'm in a I'm in a group called the Bernie Sanders Dank Meme Stash
I used to
that
be
I've
in
been
there.
in since the campaign 2016. And that is like a political, that's just Left Book. Like that's not weird. Or I guess like because they're memes, I guess you could say maybe it's weird. But it's a very like specific thing, right? It's like all about like Bernie and like
Right.
his like, his platform and everything. There's a lot of other Facebook groups that will basically, and I'm not saying I agree with this, but they sort of like look down on people that are older, that like don't have the sense of humor where they're like getting all
come to Reddit. We
these
do
like
that too.
layers of but I think there's something kind of exciting about doing it like on the very platform that the people you're making fun
Yeah,
of
for sure.
are already
I get that.
are using.
Like right in
If
plain
the irony
sight.
is, if that's right, if like the irony is in that, I 100% understand
I
the
have
attraction.
an important question for Louise. Is
Yeah.
the Zuck, is that what we call
Yeah,
it?
with two C's.
Mark Zuckerberg's
Z-U-C-C.
nickname?
That's what I started calling him today, and I think it's going to catch on.
It's going to
No, it's a thing. That's a
Hashtag
the Zuck
the
is a
Zuck.
thing.
Hashtag the Zuck. So Dean
It's a
is in a
thing.
nail shaming group, and she sent me the rules. Here are the nail shaming group rules, just to give you an idea of how the communities monitor behavior and work to shape members' interactions with the content and with each other. These are so somebody took the time not only to form this group, but to determine that it was going to be governed by this set of
Well,
standards.
these rules probably came about after some situation.
Of course,
yeah.
just like everything else, you kind of manage it as you go, and you see what problems may arise. So, do we have the rules? Did I include?
them right here.
Okay, go ahead and read the rules, Joe.
Number 1, if you post your own nails, just be aware they're up there to be shamed. It's fair game if you want to show off or ask advice. Our sister group is, that's it, I'm nail praising. Number 2,
Is no name calling. We aren't in junior high. Let's be adults who just happen to shame nails.
Number 3, don't go real life and don't stalk others' profiles just to find info to bring into the group. That does no one any good and gets you booted, and no one wants that, right?
No.
Number 4 is, yes, we're about the ugly nails of shame, but we like ones that are just extra too. So just because they aren't bad doesn't mean we don't want to see them.
Shame the nails, but let's not make fun of things people can't help, like fingers.
This this makes me laugh so much because I honestly thought it was going to be rules like number 1, no pink or something random like that. But like it's rules that like legitimately you said were created because of the problems. Like
Yeah,
I was a part of this dating group for this other podcast where it's people who love the podcast who were like wanted to like meet other people who love the podcast, and
That's podcast
literally they
dedication.
they had to come out with like, okay guys, stop with the dick pics. Like it was like new rule. No more dick pics.
Oh, I want a dick shaming group.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No,
I'm
that's
sure there are.
Like you can make fun of like the way the dick is dressed,
Yes.
but you can't make fun of the dick because people can't help their dicks.
So I just want to say a couple things, and then Joe, you can have your mic back.
No,
So
you
the
keep
fir-
it. It's fine.
The first thing is that some of the groups I'm in, Facebook actually did suggest to me, which just show me that hashtag the Zuck is interested in, like, he understands that a lot of people are engaging a lot more with groups and it's keeping people on Facebook. So, and then the other thing I want to say is that it's fun to be in these groups because, like, if I go to the nail shaming group, we'll talk about there was the other day there was like this post with like the nails are like really white and like bulbous, and everybody started posting like photos and GIFs of like what they thought the nail looked like, which was like Mentos and so I posted a picture of Eva or Eve, like the Wall-E robot, because it looked just like her to me, and that kind of eggs, right? So we're like not talking about politics. We're not talking about like nobody's mean to each other. We're just like having a good time. It's
Right.
almost like,
It's just like girls sitting around just
Yeah.
being fun.
and you know what to expect.
I went to New Orleans. I want to say 2 years ago, and I was part of a group at the time called Last Podcast on the Left, which is the group for that podcast.
Ooh, good name.
And I was asking some people for advice on where to go, and this one woman messaged me and gave me like all these really cool hotspots, and we still correspond. The group has since disbanded because too many people were posting like really racist stuff. But
why does everything devolve?
But I think that and also
That's
they
how
just
prevalent
got,
it is.
They
Why can't
just
you
got
kids
too,
get along?
They just got too busy and they couldn't like monitor the group. But like, yeah, so I feel like groups like that, like they do add benefit, and it's also nice just to have like a pen pal that you can communicate with.
Absolutely.
And stuff.
Yeah, that is
So,
fun. Yeah.
I was on a group that I followed for a really long time that I just got a kick out of, and it was a genuine group, but it was about this guy started this group about how he feels that people with tattoos should be killed. And like no
It
like
can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery.
no
We-
no like real reason for why, just like I don't like people with tattoos and anybody who has a tattoo should be killed. And it was like straight death penalty.
Those
like,
are the
it
kind
was
of
just like,
thoughts
okay.
I have where I'm like, yeah, if you wear Crocs, die. Except not
Yeah,
about Crocs.
there we go.
Like
Yeah.
Crocs, but I would never like go and make a page about it. You know,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Is it
people
a-
who don't use their blinkers off with their heads.
Is
I'm
there
like,
a group? Is there a group for loud motorcycles going through
Oh,
town?
Oh,
my
man.
goodness.
That-
Because
that just
this is
cuts right
why
through you.
I shouldn't have a gun.
Yes.
Even worse than when they're going
No.
through town is when they drive past you and startle you. When you're driving
Yeah.
and you're like
Yes.
in traffic
And they
you're
do that.
kind of like, and you just
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I would join that group.
Wow. We're,
I'm on
we're
this
all we're all in it.
We're all
I'm
in.
on this shake diet where I only drink
There is a group?
5 shakes a day.
Called I Hate Loud Motorcycles.
Will you enroll me? What do I have to do? Do I have to take a
might have
test?
to answer some
Okay. Okay.
If
Couple
you
of
can
questions
think
you
of
have to
it, it's
answer.
online.
What do you
How do you
consider
feel
to be
about
loud?
Harleys?
Do you have a concealed weapon? You know. Yeah.
How do you feel about leather?
No, I'm sorry.
So
My thing is putting your signal sign on and then never turning. Those people, I would like to see their entire family obliterated.
But I think
like
those are
I just am like,
accidents,
you
generally.
guys, I don't care. Like,
You know
and
what?
I've done it.
You see
but
that
I'm
in
like,
Florida,
I will submit
all
myself.
day long in
I would
Florida,
hate
yeah.
Florida. I would
think
be
that's a
yelling
generational
so
thing,
much.
yeah.
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 I forget the comedian who just said it's an eventual left. Like they're just going around the
It's an
world.
eventual-
Yeah. They're just slightly veering left around the world. So it's probably Seinfeld. So, you know, usually with jokes like that, you just
Yeah.
go ahead and credit him. Do
Yeah.
you guys want to do James Gunn or do you want to do They Bees? Because we are running out of time.
What are
So James Gunn was fired after 9-year-old tweets were dug up by conservatives.
Wow.
You know how they do.
Yeah.
But they were 9-year-olds. So James Gunn is the guy who directed all of the movies. What are they called?
I've heard of those.
Yeah. What
What is cinema?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah. This
Okay,
one.
gotcha,
This
yeah.
one.
Yeah. So his tweet. So he had I guess he used to post tweets that were just controversially.
Just trying to be provocative.
Provocatively controversial, yeah.
Yeah.
One tweet read, I like when little boys touch me in my silly place. Another said, the best thing about being raped is when you're done being raped. And it's like, phew, this feels great. I'm not being raped.
Man.
Which sounds like something that like a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old would
This-
tweet
This
without.
sounds like jokes I've heard at open mics where people, where guys are
Yeah.
just like, I got nothing.
And
So
it
I'm just
shouldn't-
going to talk about rape.
Right.
Here's good news. Roseanne Barr is disgusted by James Gunn supporters. So there you go.
Okay.
It's true.
She's
So how do
coming
you guys
back.
how do you guys feel like should his career be over? Should he be spaceyed?
Yeah.
Wheezy, I'm talking.
Yes.
The guy who like reported on that is
Yeah.
just an absolute like buffoon.
Okay.
What's his name? Mike. Do you have? Yeah.
It's
he's-
always the source.
He's just like he's his rape, like he's got so many rape jokes and pedophilia stuff on his own Twitter.
Wow.
He just like the name of the game for him is just like take down other people, and he like says that he's like literally like I go out and like yeah here we go.
I don't know if he's been convicted yet, but he's like he's like had a rape like charge brought.
What's his
against
name?
him.
This is the reporter.
Mike
that-
Cernovich. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like reporter is a stretch. He's just
Oh,
like an
really?
insane
Yeah.
man who like screenshots old pictures and then like tries
So
to
what
ruin
kind of a
people's lives.
deep Twitter dive do you have to do before you come up with this? How much time does that take?
Probably a lot,
A
but
long
yeah.
time. Well, there's a this is not the first instance of someone's old racist tweets being uncovered that has hurt them. What I find interesting is there's a pitcher in baseball, Josh Hader,
Yeah.
who in the past couple weeks has had some old racist tweets of his
Right.
surface. But the distinction that I find interesting is that when he took the mound 2 nights ago, I want to say, the audience gave him like an ovation as if he had been the victim of people being rude to him because he was racist.
They booed him.
No, they cheered for him.
Oh, they cheered for him.
Wow.
And it was like, you're not a victim for getting called out for doing something wrong. You did something wrong. And the response was all of a sudden that he was a victim. So I'm at least glad to see in this circumstance that it was like, yep, you're done.
No, he was fired from the 3rd sequel,
Which I'm a little worried about because I like the movies, but
or the trequel or whatever you call it. But
I feel like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean.
No, I want to know what you guys think because, I mean, I think the way they found it was probably someone saying, oh, I remember this guy used to be like a really racist tweeter. Like someone must have tipped them off to go 9 years into someone's Twitter feed and find
sometimes
it.
you just go down the rabbit hole. You're bored at night. You start scrolling. You know, you got nothing better to do.
That's a long way down.
And when you're Disney, you have to make these kind of cuts because you have a lot of child fans.
Really?
I think that
so.
I think that his tweets are idiotic and terrible.
Yeah, they're definitely idiotic.
And I think that if you're in that kind of like, look, there's been so many people who like Melissa Villaseñor when she joined Saturday Night Live, she had some jokes on there that weren't great, and she tried to delete the tweets, and they caught up with her, and she got in some hot water in the beginning of her career on SNL. But it's like, you know, you can't be. I think calling yourself a provocateur is kind of bullshit. You were just saying stupid shit, and you thought it was good. If there was a joke that somebody from a Twitter of mine that said this is terrible, I would have said, well, at the time I thought it was hilarious, but yeah, now I can see how it. You know, I'm not married to any of my stuff, and I think that you should apologize. But also, it's like. This didn't just happen like somebody released the article and then he was fired. He released the article and then an executive at Disney took all of the work that he's done with that company and all of the thing and said, nope, we don't want to work with you anymore. And I think that's what's ridiculous.
That's like he doesn't deserve to get frankened.
Yeah.
And notice that I'm turning everyone's name into a verb.
That's very good.
My
I don't know
today.
that I agree, though. As a company like Disney, you hire someone and the way they their reputation develops, it follows your company. And yes, maybe if Disney really cared and wanted to be more diligent, they could have looked into his tweets before they hired him. But this is now a part of his character, and they wouldn't hire him now if it happened now, so they fired him.
Right, but if you're responsible for everything you ever said or did
publicly,
yeah, I mean, yes, publicly. I agree,
we are
but
responsible for that, aren't we?
But
not?
I could find tape of Lori doing an open mic 10 years ago and saying something that she wouldn't say today because it's no longer
then maybe it wasn't the best idea to do. And if there's consequences,
I will tell this. I had a joke that I literally thought was the funniest joke I've ever thought of in my entire life, and I will tell it, and it is terrible. And now I go, what the hell was I thinking?
Is it racist or?
It was okay. Here was my joke. Literally, this was it. This was the joke that I thought. This is what I'm going to be the next Louis C.K. Boy, people with Down syndrome sure do love hugs. Boom. That was it. That was the joke that I literally thought, boom, I am a genius. It is not even a freaking joke. It is the worst. So if somebody saw that and was like, okay, I saw that then and now I never want you to have a job or I don't want you to have a job, that would be ridiculous. I recognize that was a terrible
Well, then
thing.
if you could demonstrate that growth in a company that's open.
But you don't think James Gunn demonstrated that growth? Like, it just think that...
Did he apologize?
Oh, yeah.
He did
here's
apologize.
the apology.
He did.
Here's the tweet. It says, it's not to say I'm better, but I am very, very different than I was a few years ago. Today, I try to root my work in love and connection and less in anger. My days saying something just because it's shocking and trying to get a reaction are over. Gunn also said, I used to make a lot of offensive jokes. I don't anymore.
But the thing I'm saying
Didn't
is...
apologize.
Well, he said it's over. I understand.
Maybe he did, but
I could see.
I take that as an apology.
I could see that.
I'm just saying, if he showed up today, having not been employed, but the tweets having surfaced and this whole thing happening, and then he said, "Hey, Disney, I want to direct your new movie," they'd say, "No. Do you understand what's following you?"
Yeah.
So why should they have to keep him employed when
But
they wouldn't even employ him today?
Because he's done so much. I mean, you can't take...
And they
you can't-
compensated him for that financially, and
I
that's
know.
what
It would
getting
be
paid is for.
They would set a good example by like saying like, oh, okay, like he's remorseful for what he's done. If you can,
There'd be huge backlash if they.
I
did
feel
that.
like if you go 10 years in anyone's past, it's just like
I
that's
don't
like saying
disagree.
like if you watch movies from like the 80s and 90s, like it's a lot of sexist shit in there.
I don't disagree personally. I'm just saying you would understand the backlash Disney would have taken had they kept him on.
I can see what you're saying.
But they also, like, as a company, they do a lot of like messed up shit.
But they don't get
Yeah.
they don't
But
get
they
to
don't
the
get
backlash, for
backlash
it.
at all.
Which
So
is why
it's
they
like,
do it,
it's- I understand it's a PR move, for
Right.
sure.
That's all I'm
Also-
saying.
But like, it's a very hollow PR move because they like don't
Sure.
give their workers a
It was
little
like-
I don't
like
even
they-
think
there's
it's
actual
a
reasons to be
PR
mad.
move that much.
Yeah.
Lane, I don't even know if it's a PR move as much as it's like feeling a wave and just guessing as to which way it's breaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from a cultural standpoint, this is sort of a situation that is like illustrative of how much we require like a sense of nuance right now about what's happening, because we can't keep like just like making like these certainties and they're saying like, okay, this is definitely like this and this is the reason, this is what happened. Okay, like James Gunn, he did something wrong. Okay, like I think we should all be able to say that, right? And admit that. Like those tweets were not okay. They came from a place of like, you know, white dude, like entitlement, like I'm so edgy and this is like, I'm super cool. Everybody's going to love me for this. And that is not okay. What happened with him recently is also not like all necessarily like easy to process.
So in Airplane, there's a scene where a little boy walks into the cockpit and Leslie Nielsen or somebody says, "Have you ever seen a grown man naked?" Right. So how is that okay? And this stupid tweet is
that's context. You see it in it's a satirical movie that has context. This is just a dumb tweet.
James Gunn is worth $40 million. A large portion of that was given to him by Disney. If we don't feel like he's been compensated enough for his work for Disney,
I'm not saying that he hasn't
well, then I don't think that they owe him anything more like future employment.
I also think
that's a form of compensation.
I think it brings up like a bad precedent of like comedy. Like I agree with you about James Gunn. Like he'll be fine. I don't really care that much about his well-being, but it's like the precedent of like, what can you just not say anything offensive ever again if you want to work like that? You know what I mean? Like, and there's a fine line. Like those jokes are like not funny and fucked up, but it's like they're jokes, and like the guy who went after him is like almost certainly actually an abuser.
I think the answer is yes, because so Melissa Villaseñor, she had some jokes on her Twitter that were. I think one of the jokes, if I remember correctly, were something like, "My friend set me up with a black guy and I'm afraid," and something like along those lines. And it was like, okay, that's not great. Like that's not a joke, but she's not really a joke writer, and yet she still has a job. And so it's like you take the context of the joke, match it with the person, and I just feel like they didn't do that in this scenario, they didn't match it with what he has created for them. They just took that one incident and matched it to that.
And the problem is with the medium too is like Twitter. Like if you go to an open mic and someone says an offensive joke, you have the context of like this is a joke. But Twitter, it's like most comedians use Twitter now.
Exactly what I was thinking. Yes,
to get
what
to
you talked
get
about that you were on stage and that really wasn't you saying something that you believe in, that you're performing.
No, I was like, I was literally in the bathroom and I was like, this is gonna kill.
Yeah.
And I don't drink, so I was sober, so I have no excuse. And so I literally walk out, and of course it was like nothing, like no laughter, whatever. So the audience was great. And so I get off stage, and it was a competition show actually, and I moved on. And one of the judges who came up after me was like, that first joke you told, because it was the first joke I told, which if you know with stand-up, you're supposed to tell like your second best joke first and your best joke last. Yep. And so they were like, that first, so that was like literally how much confidence I had in that joke. And so they were like, that was not great, that was not good. And they were like, your other stuff was good, your last bit was great. If you do jokes like you did in the first one, nobody will want to hire you. Nobody will want you to do stand-up. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was that bad. And then that's when I started thinking about it. And you need that. I think you need that realization when you go like, and you think about it now and you go, okay, well, that was the dumbest thing, one of the dumbest things I've ever done.
I bet he's thinking that right now. I think he's got that realization.
I'm sure he probably is laying in bed going like, that woman was terrible.
I'm just misunderstanding maybe not misunderstanding. I'm agitated, not by what you're saying, just as a concept in response to what you're saying.
I will murder you.
I know you already said on the show that you'd like to be on a podcast for murder, so I'm gonna. I'm giving you what you want.
Yeah.
Motive,
but people love to throw things out there and say, well, I shouldn't be responsible for that. It was 10 years ago. Well, you have two options in life, and it's a spectrum, but anywhere between these two options of playing your cards incredibly safe and close to your chest, or being entirely out there. And you have to be aware that the consequences aren't always predictable. And if you really want to know that for your whole life you're not going to have to worry about anything, keep your mouth shut and keep your head down. And if you don't want to live like that and you want to be out there, you're going to have to be prepared to
But what
potentially suffer
happens
some
if-
consequences.
What happens if
That's
the
life.
worldview shifts? Like, let's say tomorrow, or
That's
not
part
in-
of
not
life.
tomorrow.
Worldview shifts all the time.
Let's say 5 years from now, somebody like the worldview shifts, and all of a sudden, people who wear Crocs are considered pedophiles, and they have a video of you on this thing saying, "Okay, I support Crocs. I do whatever." I'm not saying that this is similar. I'm just saying that like worldview shift. I mean, if we
Yes.
look at comedy, if we
Look at movies from the
movies
30s,
in the
I
30s
agree.
and whatever, they're
40s.
terrible.
I agree, and I'm putting myself out
We
here.
don't watch
when
them
I,
anymore.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
I watch them every night.
But I can't.
But not
I
the
come
really
on the
bad
show.
ones.
What?
But not like the really bad ones.
No, not the really. But I'm just saying that I think, and I do agree with you. I think that he didn't technically apologize, so there is a problem in that. But I think when the worldview, when everything keeps shifting, you don't necessarily you can't really say, "Oh, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and not say anything that could potentially offend
But
somebody."
that is how you should live. If you're really so concerned about getting in trouble, then you have to live like that, which is a horrible way to live. So don't be that concerned. What I'm saying is I'm getting on the show today and I'm saying I support Crocs. And I say that knowingly that if 10 years from now Crocs make you a pedophile, I guess I'm a pedophile. And I'm taking that risk and
Oh,
I'm saying
boy.
I
It's a good
insinuate...
We're
soundbite
open
right
a lot of.
I don't think you should be so willing to consider
Careful.
that.
I'm saying I think there's such
Yeah.
a slim chance that supporting Crocs in the future would ever make you a pedophile that I'm willing to say that for the sake of putting my opinion out there and risk whatever comes back to me.
I gotta be
And-
honest. Part of me now hopes that you end up becoming a pedophile because it would just be
not
like.
becoming, not
It would
becoming,
just be
but I
like,
just
or
get to
running
holy
for
shit, we
president, yeah.
called it, guys.
Yeah.
But that's
totally
but you know what I
called
would
it.
be thinking in my jail cell at that point? I go, okay, first of all, big mistake.
Yeah,
Shouldn't have done that.
how
but
cocky
hey,
was I?
But hey, I did put myself out there.
Yeah.
That'd be the second
when
part.
when you change into becoming a Republican, you're running for the Republican nomination, and that comes out. That's going to be
Yeah, when they
unbelievable.
find the
That'll be
soundbite
awesome.
of you saying, "I guess I'm a pedophile," that's what's gonna bring you down.
Oh,
I think your view's gonna change, Ryan, in like 20 years when you're really successful, and then someone digs this shit up,
No, but
and then
that's
you're
what I'm
like,
saying.
"Whoa,
But that's
I'm sorry."
but that's my exact point, though.
Wait a
Is
minute.
if I want to have a lengthy career in broadcasting. I want to work at ESPN. I want to cover college football, and my tweets, if that happens, are going to be prominent. My internet history. We don't know what our internet history is going to look like when our generation becomes the main adults in the country. How our kids are going to look on our Reddit history. What? So
man.
I'm aware when I come on this show that I might slip up and say something that sounds weird, like "I guess I'm a pedophile," and that phrase can get clipped. And when I drove out here today, if I really didn't want to risk any of that, I would have stayed home. That's what life is about. And so I didn't.
But
stay
so do you
home.
think your future self should be fired for shit you're saying on this show now?
If I
20
legitimately
years.
said that, if I was legitimately a
No,
pedophile,
what if someone was like, "Oh, we heard that you're a pedophile. We'll fire you right away. We're not even
But
going to
like
look into
you're
it."
joking.
well,
about
that's
it.
what Disney
that's,
did.
That's unjust.
You're
right, but
joking-
they didn't
you're
look into
joking
who
about it.
reported
No.
it.
Just like he was. That's
But
what's
if-
happening
if-
right now.
But that's what
But
I'm
I-
saying.
but I
If
think
within
that's-
this context they determined that was inappropriate, I don't know what to tell them. I guess that's their judgment as a company of me, and
But
that is what
wouldn't
it
you
is. I
say,
put
like,
myself out there.
Look at what I've done. Like, let's say you go on and have a long list, which I do hope you do, and you have a long lusting career at ESPN, and you do really well, and then it's one day somebody says, "We saw something you did, and we don't agree," and somebody tweeted out something, and it's not even necessarily that it was like a huge backlash. It wasn't like a Roseanne thing where people were like, what's going to happen? Literally, it was released, and then Disney released the thing that they were letting him go. So
Well,
it's-
don't work with Disney.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
the thing is, though,
that
that it's like
happens.
Guardians of the Galaxy is not Snow White or Beauty and the
Right,
Beast.
true. You're right.
It's
Yeah,
kind of an
absolutely.
edgy-ish movie
But not
franchise.
about rape. I mean, they're not making
No,
rape jokes.
no,
That's
I know it,
horrible.
but
I think the thing that's the problem here is that we're kind of going like it seems like it's defending what he's saying. What he's saying is bad.
Yeah, we're not defending what he's saying.
What the
We're just saying
actions
it's very
are-
similar to open micers that we have watched work on material.
But you don't
Yeah,
think
I
when you
don't-
get up in an open mic, if you wanted to become a lawyer after that, you don't think a comedian should second guess what they say if they want
Nobody
to?
who's
think
at an
it's-
open mic is going
it's
to
a-
become a lawyer.
I know, but
It's perception. If you're at an open mic, you are a character. You're coming up with jokes. If you tweet something out, I think the perception is that that's coming from your soul.
Yeah.
I think it's
I
Yeah,
agree with that, and I
okay.
agree with the feeling you guys are sharing. Oh my God, would I feel horrible given that something I said 15 years prior could hurt my career? Yes, but it's also not unfair.
But you would also think that at that time you could go, okay, I'm older now. I have years of experience now, and I have done more for this company, and I've created a lot. That they would say, hey, we didn't like it, but we're not going to let you go.
Oh, I would hope so. If I was
Yeah.
employed by the right company, a great company would do that. I'm not saying, well, in my opinion, and if I was running a company, I would do that. But I'm just saying there's nothing wrong. These companies have choices to make, and I totally understand the decision to let them go. Maybe not my personal choice, but I don't think it's a wrong choice by any stretch. It's just not the one I would make.
I think that also we have to look at like possibly that this was a way for them to sort of pivot the conversation to just be like, we don't it's not, we're letting him go because of this, not because we want a new director or we want a new view. You know, like it was sort of like the
Although
thing
the
with,
movies did pretty well, so I doubt that that's where that's coming from.
I mean, they fired how many Star Wars? Haven't they done like a lot of changes on a lot of different things for no reason, just simply because they just have a different way that they want to have things go. So
I mean, I totally agree with you, Ryan. I think that this is like a business matter, right? And Disney they have the right to do whatever they want, whether it's up to us as like consumers of culture and media and, you know, news and everything like that to like understand what's going on and the underpinnings that there was like some, you know, conservative troll that like made this happen.
Yeah, but it's also like impending disaster mitigation, and it may not have been the bullet that they thought it was that they needed to dodge to the, like they may have swerved their car. I'm mixing a lot of metaphors here, so you're welcome. But they may have swerved their car like way off the road because some edgy kid made
Ultimately,
some
this
stupid
maybe
tweets.
was not like the best decision for them to make. We actually don't know, right? If that
Right,
like,
in
if
potential
that's gonna
hindsight,
end.
it may not have been necessary,
Yeah,
but that's
they have
pretty
the
much a
right
stretch.
to do. And if I completely agree with you that like if you say something in a public forum, you give up your right to, you know, to like say, oh, I'm sorry, that was like a different person.
That's
like,
for thoughts that are up here. And
Yeah,
thoughts that come out of your mouth are
exactly.
not,
All right, we're
not
going to
yours
have to
anymore.
move on. I don't know if we're ever going to solve this, but
Sorry, guys.
No, it really is a very good question.
No,
It's like
Jay
how long
wanted
are we
to-
responsible for everything?
he wanted to say something, but
Oh,
I
yes.
interrupted. Okay.
All right.
So do we have what's Twitter trending? And I don't know if a lot of you know it, but today, or what's going on right now, is Google Next 18 hashtag Google Next 18. So I guess there's a big convention in San Francisco going on with googly people. And just to show you how googly they are, this is a tweet from Mark Imbriaco, and I'll see if the boys in the booth can decode this tweet. This stack driver dependency graph that is generated from Istio data is awesome. Intra-service latency and other metrics included, and a heat map for service response times instead of a graph. Hashtag Google Next 18.
I think what that just translates to is that the Holocaust is not real. I think that's Google.
And if someone doesn't want to employ you for that soundbite, that's up to them.
Does anyone speak that
God,
tweet?
I hope
Do we
that
have any
eventually-
translators?
Do you guys speak that? No. No.
Where's Jake?
No.
Where's
No.
Jake? All right.
Jake.
So,
Jeez.
It's
and that's
so-
something that I think we can understand, even though we didn't get to babies today. We'll get to them next week. But babies are like, if you're raising your baby and not telling him or her what sex was assigned
Oh,
at,
like they as a gender.
at birth, you
yes.
just wait for like your 4-year-old to be like, I'm a girl.
Right.
So that's what babies are, and you just use they and their and all that, and you don't give them
It's a
any
lot of
concept
work.
of boys and girls. So
can
at
see
this
that.
conference, Nicole Henderson tweets, all other conferences take notes. It is that easy. So there's a sign at Google Next 18 that reads, we care about your pronouns. Add a sticker to your badge to share with others which ones you prefer. So that is incredibly modern.
Yeah,
I like that.
Absolutely.
Easy,
Yeah.
you know.
It's a way to show up with people already knowing, so you don't risk the offensive mistake. And at that point, if you're aware that that's going to be happening, you can blame someone for not getting it right because it's written right in front of
And
them.
like, I am registering my baby for that convention now.
The baby thing, though totally unrelated, reminds me slightly of, I don't know if it was a Reddit post, but someone had this idea to have a baby and then keep giraffes a secret from it until they were like 14. And then can you imagine never knowing what a giraffe is and then seeing it at 14 and being like, what is that?
Why would you play mind games with your
Yeah,
own
I
baby?
mean, that is, oh my God.
They used to do that. They used to do that all the time. Like that's how they got a lot of their child psychology. Was they would just like they realized that like children need care because they
So
would
they
just
just took that
hold,
away.
They would just hold children like in like areas, and they wouldn't allow them to be hugged by their mother, and a lot of infants died.
Well,
and
I'm
they're
just
like,
saying
well,
giraffes.
God.
I'm just saying giraffes.
No,
I'm not saying
I agree that it's
wants
a
to work for
direct line.
ESPN.
It's a direct line to dead babies. So no, I'm sorry.
And
I'm being a complete
we have
asshole
Facebook
right now.
feed time. If you want to open up, we don't have the.
Wait, so what was the response? Did they ever see the giraffe?
No. It was just someone's idea. But I think I like to imagine what my response would be if I didn't see a
That
giraffe
would
for
be
14 years.
terrifying.
And then you get to a zoo and you're like, what is that
What
thing
the
with the
heck?
neck and the head and the
Wouldn't
tongue?
it be
and
funny
the,
if that
neck
was
and
like
the
a
head.
thing? Because I think you can tell schools, like, hey, just so you know, due to our own beliefs, we don't want our child to know what giraffes are. So they just
No,
have
but
to be
you
gone.
could tell them that giraffes were mythical, like unicorns, and then bring them to the
Whoa.
zoo
Whoa.
and be like, yeah,
That's a mind. Yeah.
yeah. I found some. What's it called in Jurassic Park when they find some DNA in the sap?
Dino,
The amber.
Amber.
Yeah.
Amber.
Exhibit A.
Facebook feed time. So this is from comedian Amy Anderson. Do you know Amy?
Oh, I have to see your face.
Okay. So she is funny. She wrote, so Amy Anderson is Asian. She's American. I don't know what her nationality of origin is, but this is what she wrote on Facebook. I got called Kim by a white woman this morning. A nice mom from Aubrey's camp. This was literally about 15 minutes after we exchanged names and shook hands. When I corrected her, telling her my name is Amy, I could tell she was really embarrassed. Why did I think your name was Kim? When this happens, and it happens a lot, and I mention that it's a racial bias, and it happens to me and many other Asian women I know, they deny it. No, they weren't calling me Kim because of a racial bias. Really? Then what's the reason? Kim isn't even close to what my actual name is.
Amy.
White folks, it's okay to admit that you have these racial biases. We all do. Stop being so butthurt about it, though. How about listen to what someone is telling you that their real name or that their life experience is, and accept that. Now that you know better, you can do better. Hashtag Kimmed. So what is it? Have you ever accidentally called an Asian woman Kim? Is this a thing?
I'm aware that,
I
like,
think so.
go for it if you want to.
No, sorry.
Have you?
I'm aware that Kim is like an Asian stereotypical name, but it's a pretty big stretch to like see an Asian person and then assume their name. Like there's a lot of names
bizarre.
out there, right? Like
I think it's bizarre.
it's just really like assuming someone's name is like
If it was an Asian man and you call him Kim, now that I can understand.
you're just like really guessing from a really big like.
Isn't that also more of a last name too? Like, if anything,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say Grace.
I think
'cause
it's like more of a Kardashian.
Yeah.
I think she's just trying to bring up awareness for like, these are
I
things
can
that are
totally
totally
see it.
internal.
Oh, yeah.
You're not
No,
trying
if
to like.
this is
it's not
happening
conscious.
to her, then I totally accept that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like-
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just like I didn't hear of this happening before.
Yeah, I didn't know. I know that like there's an issue. I went to a high school that was predominantly Asian and Indian, Asian, and whenever we'd go to like walk to Disneyland or do like field trips or whatever, people will be like, come up to friends and be like, "Where are you from?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I'm from Cerritos." And they'd be like, "No, where are you from?"
Where are you from?
And it's like,
Oh.
okay, Jesus, Irvine. So it was just like, I just think that I've heard of that more than I've heard of people being, but I could
I've heard of that a lot.
see that. I mean, I think that's terrible.
Yeah, but what she's saying is like, okay, you called me Kim, and here's the reason why. Just accept that it's a racial bias. But
Although-
people get really embarrassed if they've been caught in one, I guess.
Embarrassed and scared,
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to be racist.
Well, you
I
don't
really
wanna-
think
What
yeah,
does
about
you
that
don't
even
wanna
mean?
know.
Why did I do that?
But I think the better point is like, okay, yeah, I agree. I guess I did have it's like with touching black women's hair. It's like when you say like, oh, that's racist to do. They're like, oh no, I just like the way your hair feels. It's like, well, why don't you touch a bunch of white people's hair then? Or
Oh, I do.
I would just say that I think like this kind of is along the lines of like proving intention, and the way you phrased it, Weezy, when you like kind of recounted it just a second ago in the simplified version, which is just like, oh, you're doing that because you're racist. Like it's a little bit of like a claim to just say like you called me Kim because you're a racist. So like it might have.
She
been,
didn't say
but, like,
racist. She said racial bias.
because it's a racial bias.
like a subconscious.
Like I'm just like maybe she just thought your name was Kim. Like I don't think you have to just accept that in this circumstance. If you're like touching people's hair and like that's racist, it's because of that, right? Like it's
Yeah.
obviously
But
because that. So if someone's like that's
I've
racist,
never
it is.
been called Kim. If she's been called Kim several times,
Yeah.
then I
by the
accept
same
that.
person or like by I don't understand.
She's
I
saying
think
by
it's
different
fine.
people.
Yeah, for her to
Yeah,
post
she's
about
the
it,
same
like-
person, different people. Like it's a
She
pretty.
also said that a lot of her friends were being called Kim.
I'm just saying
too.
you don't have to accept blatantly if someone says, "Oh, you called me Kim, that's racist." You're like, "Oh, I guess that's it. I was being racist." If you were being racist, you were being racist. But if you weren't, you weren't.
But some of the time, you're not even aware of it.
Right.
It's
Then
like
how
it's
would they?
racial.
How would they be
Your
aware of
racial
it?
Because
bias
they're-
is an
they're
active.
the-
because it
they're the
happens
race.
to them.
They're aware of that happening to them as a racial bias, but
Yeah.
they aren't aware that your action was a bias.
But that's
But-
what they're saying is that it's subconscious. It's
It's-
it's permeated around every. Oh, sorry.
No,
Maybe
you're
my
good.
point isn't coming across clearly that, like, in the grand scheme, yes, what's happening to them is a racial bias, but you might have just thought their name was Kim.
I know, but
so
when
why do
someone-
they get to say that you're racist? for
Because
that?
when someone of a certain race tells me that a thing happens to them repeatedly, I just listen. I don't
I'm
tell
not-
them
no,
they're
no,
wrong.
No, I'm not saying she's wrong either. I'm 100% saying that if people are regularly calling her Kim, that's racist, what's happening to her. But not every person that calls you Kim is being racist. That's what I'm saying is like it's a circle, a square is, a rectangle is not a square, but a square is a rectangle. You can't just say, oh, well, you said Kim, now you're racist. Calling an Asian
Not
person
racist.
Kim,
It
Yeah.
doesn't say racist in here at all. It
Racially
says
biased.
racial
Yeah.
bias.
Yeah.
But I
That's
think
pretty much racist.
It comes down to like impact versus intent, right? Like even if it's like the mansplaining thing. Like I just tend to talk over people, just in general. But like if I do it to women, they get it more often because they're women.
Okay.
So to them, it's mansplaining.
They're more
It doesn't
sensitive.
matter.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what my intent is. If she gets, it's a microaggression to her. If she
I
feels
agree with
Does that
you,
make
racistly
and
you-
I
attacked,
think
then
that's
it's
why
my
I
problem.
double up
Does
on
that make
my
you
over
bigoted,
talking
though?
of men because I feel
Makes
like
you
I need
unaware.
to cut it in,
That's
and
why having a
also I feel
microphone
like
is-
my point means more.
And on that note,
We love you, Amy Anderson, and that was
But I
a
see what
really
you're
interesting
saying.
point.
The action, of course, as a whole is the pattern that's happening to her is, of course, racist, and probably the person doing it could be racist. But I just don't like accepting it at face value because someone told you. Without
I know,
knowing
but
you.
what one of the things
see
that I
what you're
really love about social media is being able to see the world better through other people's eyes, and so and she did a good
It's a
job.
good
of
thing the Zuck isn't coming in and getting rid of the posts that are problematic if some people think that way.
Hashtag the Zuck.
Hashtag the Zuck. All right, I want to thank everyone for being with us. Larry Morgan from the podcasting
Lair Dog.
movement, and here in the studio we have
Did
Dina
you just
Friedman.
say call yourself Lair Dog?
Lair Dog.
We
is
call him
Larry.
Lair Dog.
Larry Morgan.
Yeah.
Lair Dog.
Joe Cipriano, yay!
Thank you.
Ryan, you get your own round of applause. Everyone else
Wow,
has to hold to the end.
everybody-
Yeah, hold your applause
hold
to the
till
end.
the end?
Ryan Tabb, Aaron Linker, Lori Roggenkamp, Lane McFadden, Thomas Hubble, Francesco, say your last, D'Amato?
Diamanda.
Wait, say it again.
Demanda.
Demanda. It's such a
Demanda.
fancy
I
name.
demand that you say
I
it properly.
am Louise Palenker. We are your new favorite podcast, so please like and subscribe and leave a comment in the iTunes store because that means a lot and helps other people find the show. And then we can start a Facebook group for fans of this show.
Right.
And I'll let you guys name
And
it.
it'll just be dick pics. You get to judge them.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
I'm out.
And we will see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.